The autumn sun filtered through the grimy windows of Martinez Auto Repair, casting long shadows across the concrete floor where 52-year-old Jake Sullivan wiped his hands on an oil-stained rag. His silver hair caught the light as he bent over the engine of a decades-old pickup truck. His weathered hands moving with the precision of someone who had spent a lifetime understanding how machines worked. Beside him, his 12-year-old daughter, Emma, sat on an overturned crate. Her homework spread across a makeshift desk, fashioned from a piece of plywood balanced on two toolboxes. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the same gray hoodie she'd had for 2 years, now too small, but still her favorite. "Dad, what's a metaphor?" Emma asked, looking up from her English assignment. Jake paused in his work, considering the question with the same careful attention he gave to diagnosing engine problems. A metaphor is when you describe something by comparing it to something else, sweetheart, like saying, your smile is sunshine, even though smiles aren't actually made of sunlight. Emma nodded thoughtfully and returned to her work. This had become their routine since her mother passed away 3 years ago. Emma would come straight to the shop after school doing homework while Jake worked on whatever cars needed fixing. The small apartment above the shop was home and this garage was their world. Jake had bought the failing auto repair business with his savings, hoping to build something stable for Emma. He was a skilled mechanic, but customers were few and far between in this part of town. Most days they barely made enough to cover rent and groceries. Jake never let Emma see how worried he was about making ends meet, but 12-year-olds noticed more than adults think they do. The sound of expensive heels clicking across the concrete floor interrupted the quiet hum of their afternoon routine. Jake looked up to see a woman in an immaculate cream-colored business suit walking toward them, her dark hair pulled back in a perfect shiny. She carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to having problems solved quickly and efficiently. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying just a hint of desperation beneath its professional polish. "Are you the owner?" Jake stood up unconsciously, wiping his hands again. "Yes, ma'am. Jake Sullivan. What can I do for you?" The woman, who appeared to be in her late 30s, glanced around the modest shop with barely concealed skepticism. "My BMW broke down about 2 blocks from here. I have an absolutely critical meeting in 2 hours and I need it fixed immediately." "What seems to be the problem?" Jake asked, already reaching for his diagnostic tools. "I have no idea," she replied, frustration creeping into her voice. "It just stopped running. The engine light came on and now it won't start." Jake nodded. "Let me take a look. My diagnostic fee is $50 and then we can discuss repair costs once I know what we're dealing with." The woman's expression tightened. $50 just to look at it? "Yes, ma'am. That's standard." She was quiet for a moment, clearly calculating something in her head. Finally, she spoke again, her voice softer and less commanding than before. "I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Sullivan. I don't have $50 right now. My accounts are frozen due to a legal dispute with my business partner, and all I have is my corporate credit card, which was just suspended." Jake studied her face, seeing something he recognized. All too well, the look of someone who had fallen further than they ever thought possible. "But," she continued quickly, "there's a restaurant 2 blocks down called Bella's. If you can fix my car, I'll buy you and your daughter the best dinner they serve. I promise." Emma looked up from her homework, curious about this unusual proposition. Jake was quiet for a long moment, weighing his options. They had eaten peanut butter sandwiches for dinner 3 nights this week, and Emma deserved better. "What's your name, ma'am?" Jake asked. "Victoria. Victoria Chen. I'm the CEO of Chen Dynamics, the software company." Jake nodded. "All right, Victoria. Let's go take a look at your car." The BMW Z8 sat gleaming in the afternoon sun, its silver paint job immaculate, despite its current mechanical troubles. Jake whistled softly under his breath. It was a beautiful machine, probably worth more than he made in 2 years. But when Jake opened the hood and began his examination, something remarkable happened. His hands moved over the engine with an familiarity that went far beyond normal automotive knowledge. Emma watched in fascination as her father's entire demeanor changed, becoming more focused and intense than she had ever seen him. "Emma, hand me that torque wrench," Jake said, his voice taking on a different quality in the digital multimeter. As Jake worked, a small crowd began to gather. Victoria watched in amazement as this modest mechanic in work clothes diagnosed her complex German engineering with surgical precision. Other shop customers stopped their conversations to observe the methodical way Jake approached the problem. "The issue is with your ignition coil pack," Jake announced after 20 minutes of careful examination. "It's causing a misfire in cylinders 2 and 4. I can fix it, but I'll need to machine a custom part. BMW doesn't make this component anymore for the Z8. Victoria's face fell. "How long will that take?" "Give me an hour," Jake said, already moving toward his workbench. What happened next was something that none of the observers, including Emma, had ever seen before. Jake didn't just fix the coil pack. He rebuilt it, improving the original design with modifications that would make it more reliable than the factory version. His hands moved with the precision of someone who had spent years working on machines that needed to perform at the absolute limits of engineering. As Jake worked, Victoria found herself in conversation with Emma, who was now watching her father with obvious pride. "Your dad is really good at this," Victoria observed. "He's the best," Emma said with conviction. "He can fix anything. He rebuilt our refrigerator when it broke, and he made our washing machine work better than new." "Has he always been a mechanic?" Emma paused, a strange expression crossing her face. "He used to do something else, but he doesn't like to talk about it. Mom said he was famous once, but that was before I was born." Victoria felt a prickle of curiosity. But before she could ask more questions, Jake called out from under the hood. "Try starting her up now." The BMW's engine roared to life with a purr so perfect it sounded like it had just rolled off the factory floor. The small group of observers applauded spontaneously. "That's incredible," Victoria said, genuine amazement in her voice. "What do I owe you?" "A good dinner," Jake replied, closing the hood. That was the deal. As they walked toward Bella's, Victoria found herself studying Jake more carefully. There was something about the way he had approached her car, a level of expertise that seemed almost supernatural. She had worked with enough engineers and technical specialists to recognize true mastery when she saw it. "Mr. Sullivan," she said as they settled into a booth at the cozy Italian restaurant. "Can I ask what you did before you opened the auto shop?" Jake's expression grew guarded. "Different kind of mechanical work. Dad used to race cars," Emma said innocently, ignoring her father's warning look. "There are pictures in our apartment, but he keeps them put away." Victoria felt her heart skip a beat. "Race cars? What kind of racing?" Jake was quiet for a long moment, clearly debating how much to reveal. Finally, he spoke. "NASCAR. I raced in the Cup Series for 15 years. NASCAR." Victoria repeated slowly. "What was your racing name?" "Jake Sullivan." Victoria stared at him, her mind racing. Then her eyes widened as recognition dawned. "Jake Sullivan. You're Lightning Sullivan. You won the Daytona 500 3 times. You were one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history." Jake nodded reluctantly. "That was a long time ago. What happened? Why did you stop racing?" Jake looked at Emma, who was listening intently to this conversation. Emma's mother, Sarah, was diagnosed with cancer. "I retired to take care of her and be a full-time father. Racing doesn't matter much when your family needs you." Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. "And after she passed away, I tried to come back, but 3 years away from racing might as well be 30. The sport had moved on, and I wasn't the driver I used to be. So, I bought this shop and started over." The waitress arrived to take their order, giving Victoria a moment to process this incredible revelation. She was sitting across from a man who had been one of the most celebrated athletes in America, now quietly raising his daughter and fixing cars for barely enough money to survive. "Mr. Sullivan," Victoria said after they had ordered, "I need to tell you something. Chen Dynamics isn't just a software company. We develop performance analytics and engineering optimization systems for racing teams. NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar." Jake looked interested despite himself. "What kind of systems?" "Real-time telemetry analysis, predictive maintenance algorithms, aerodynamic modeling software. We're working on technology that could revolutionize how racing teams understand and optimize vehicle performance." As Victoria explained her company's work, Jake began asking questions that revealed a depth of technical knowledge that went far beyond what any normal mechanic would possess. He understood not just how cars worked, but how they could be made to work better under the extreme conditions of professional racing. The thing is, Victoria continued, I'm facing a crisis. My business partner filed a lawsuit claiming that I stole proprietary technology from our previous company. It's completely false, but it's tied up all our assets while the legal system sorts it out. She paused, looking embarrassed. I know this sounds desperate, but I think there might be a way we could help each other. How's that? Jake asked. I need someone who understands racing at the deepest level. Someone who can validate our technology and help us demonstrate its real-world applications. And based on what I just watched you do to my BMW, you have exactly the kind of expertise we need. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Victoria, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not the same person I was when I was racing. That world moved on without me. Maybe, Victoria replied, but excellence doesn't disappear just because circumstances change. What I saw today wasn't just mechanical skill. It was mastery. And mastery is exactly what my company needs to survive. 6 months later, Jake Sullivan stood in the pit area at Talladega Super Speedway, wearing a Chen Dynamics team shirt and holding a tablet, displaying real-time performance data from the car, screaming around the track at 200 miles per hour. Emma sat beside him in the pit box, wearing her own team credentials and watching her father work with obvious pride. The technology Victoria's company had developed, combined with Jake's intuitive understanding of racing dynamics, had created a system that was revolutionizing how teams approached race strategy. Chen Dynamics was now contracted with 12 racing teams across 3 different series. And their legal troubles had been resolved when Jake's involvement proved the legitimacy of their innovations. Dad, Emma said during a caution period. Do you miss driving? Jake looked out at the track where he had once been a legend. Then at his daughter, who was growing up surrounded by the sport he loved, learning about engineering and technology and the beautiful complexity of making machines perform at their absolute limits. No, sweetheart, he said, putting his arm around her shoulders. I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Victoria approached them with a huge smile on her face. The car just posted the fastest lap of the race. Using our optimization algorithms, we're getting calls from teams in Formula One asking about licensing our technology. She sat down beside them looking out at the track. Jake, I have a confession to make. What's that? That day, my BMW broke down. It wasn't random. I had been trying to get a meeting with you for weeks after I figured out who you were. I had my assistant disable my car near your shop. Jake stared at her in amazement. You sabotaged your own BMW. Best investment I ever made. Victoria laughed. Though I really was broke that day. The frozen accounts and suspended credit card were completely real. Emma looked between the two adults with the wisdom of someone who had learned early that life rarely unfolds the way you expect it to. So Dad helped you and then you helped Dad and now you help lots of people together. Exactly. Victoria said. Sometimes the best partnerships start with someone willing to fix your car for a good meal. As the race resumed and their driver took the lead using technology that combined cutting-edge software with insights from one of racing's greatest legends, Jake reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. He had thought his racing career was over, that his greatest achievements were in the past. But sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another better one. The shop still existed, run now by 2 of Jake's former apprentices, who had learned not just mechanical skills, but the philosophy behind them, that fixing what's broken is one of the highest forms of service you can provide to another human being. And every few months, Jake and Emma would return to Bella's restaurant, the place where a desperate CEO and a struggling mechanic had discovered that sometimes the help we need comes disguised as the help we're asked to give. If this story reminded you that our greatest talents never truly disappear. They just wait for the right moment to serve a new purpose. Please give it a like and share it with someone who might need encouragement about second chances. Subscribe for more stories about hidden legends and the unexpected ways that helping others can transform our own lives. And please comment below about a time when your expertise made a difference in someone's life or when someone's hidden talents surprised you. Your story might inspire someone else to recognize the value of their own gifts.